Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, sis, for being here. I know you're busy. Hope everybody is having a good beginning of the week. Me, I'd rather be taking a nap, but AA is important. So, hey, Tony, thank you for being here. So, I'll wait a couple of minutes and get into the meeting. Please, if you're new here, subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. It helps to keep meetings going and lets me know that everybody is able to see this and, whatever. Please don't be judging each other in the comments or the chat. It's a judgment-free zone. So just be kind to each other and don't go and harass other people's channels. If they're here, doesn't mean that they are the alcoholic. They might be here to support a friend, a family member, or just be here for my channel. But anyways, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I get my steps and traditions out of the front of the Steps and Traditions book. Because when I started these meetings, it was just me, and sometimes my sister would come up on panel and read with me. One, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will answer them the best I can. My sponsor is also in the chat, and if I can't answer it, maybe she can, if you have any questions, that is. Anyways, so I always put in the description what we're reading and the page number and the story name or whatever it is. So we are in the big book. I have the 4th edition, and we are Me, an Alcoholic, ? On page 382. Me, an alcoholic. Alcohol bringer squeezed this author, but he escaped quite whole. When I try to reconstruct what my life was like before, I see a coin with 2 faces. One, the side I turned to myself and the world was respectable, even in some ways distinguished. I was father, husband, taxpayer, homeowner. I was clubman, athlete, artist, musician, author, editor, aircraft pilot, and world traveler. I was listed in Who's Who in America as an American who, by distinguished achievements, had arrived. The other side of the coin was sinister, baffling. I was inwardly unhappy most of the time. There would be times when the life of respectability and achievement seemed insufferably dull. I had to break out a night getting drunk, or sorry, skip some. This I would do by going completely bohemian for a night, getting drunk and rolling home with the dawn. Next day, remorse would be on me like a tiger. I'd claw my way back to respectability and stay there until the inevitable next time. The insidiousness of alcoholism is an appalling thing. In all the 25 years of my drinking, there were only a few occasions when I took a morning drink. My binges were one night stands only. Once or twice during my early drinking, I carried it over into the second day, and only once, that I can remember did it continue into the third. I was never drunk on the job, never missed a day's work, was seldom rendered totally ineffective by a hangover, and kept my liquor expenses well within my adequate budget. I continued to advance in my chosen field. How could such a man possibly be called an alcoholic? Whatever the root of my unhappiness might turn out to be, I thought it could not possibly be booze. Of course, I drank. Everybody did in the set which I regarded as the apex of civilization. My wife loved to drink, and we tied on many a hooter in the name of material bliss. My associates and all the wits and literary lights I so much admired also drank. Evening suppose my average sorry, skip some. Evening cocktails were a standard as morning coffee, and I suppose my average daily consumption ran a little more or less than a pint. Even on my rare at first binge nights, it never ran much over a quart. How easy it was in the beginning to forget that those binges ever happened. After a day or two of groveling remorse, I'd come up with an explanation. The nervous tension had piled up and just had to spill over. Or my physical plant had got a little run down and stuff rushed right to my head. Or I got to talking and forgot how many I was taking and it hit me. Always, we'd emerge with a new formula for avoiding future trouble. You've got to space your drinks and take plenty of water in between, or coat the stomach with a little olive oil, or drink anything but those damn martinis. Weeks would go by without further trouble, and I'd be assured I'd at last hit on the right formula. The binge had been just one of those things. After a month, it seemed unlikely that it happened. Intervals between binges were 8 months. My growing inward unhappiness was a very real thing. However, and I knew that something would have to be done about it. A friend had found help in psychoanalysis after a particularly ugly one-nighter. My wife suggested I try it, and I agreed. Educated child of the scientific age that I was, I had complete faith in the science of the mind. It would be a sure cure and also an adventure. How exciting to learn the inward mysteries that govern the behavior of people. How wonderful to know, at last, all about myself. To cut a long story short, I spent 7 years and 10,000 on my psychiatric adventure and emerged in worse condition than ever. To be sure, I learned many fascinating things and many things that were to prove helpful later. I learned what a devastating effect it can have on a child to coddle him and build him up, and then turn and beat him savagely as as had happened to me. Meanwhile, I was getting worse, both as regard my inward misery and my drinking. My daily alcoholic consumption remained about the same through alarming frequency. Oh wait, same through all this, with perhaps a slight increase of my binges remained one-nighters, but they were occurring with alarming frequency. In 7 years, the intervals between them decreased from 8 months to 10 days, and they were growing uglier. One night, I barely made my downtown club. If I had to go another 50 feet, I'd have collapsed in the gutter. On another occasion, I arrived home covered with blood. I deliberately smashed the window. With all this, it was becoming increasingly hard to maintain my front of distinction and respectability to the world. My personality was stretched almost to splitting in the effort. Schizophrenia stared me in the face, and one night I was in a suicidal despair. My professional life looked fine on the surface. I was now head of a publishing venture in which nearly $1 million had been invested. My opinions were quoted in Times and Newsweek along with pictures. I addressed the public by radio and TV. I was a fantastic structure, built on a crumbling foundation. It was totaling and it had to fall. It did. After my last binge, I came home and smashed my dining room furniture to splinters, kicked out 6 windows and 2 balustrades. When I woke up sober, my handiwork confronted me. It is impossible for me to reproduce my despair. I'd had absolute faith in science, and only in science. Knowledge is power. I'd always been taught how. Now I had to face up to the fact that knowledge of this sort applied to my individual case was not power. Science could take my mind apart expertly, but it couldn't seem to put it together again. I crawled back to my analysis, not so much because I had faith in him, but because I had nowhere. Good to see you here, guy. Been a long time. Thank you for being here. After talking to him for some time, I heard myself saying, "Doc, I think I'm an alcoholic." "Yes," he said, "surprisingly, you are." "Then why in God's name haven't you told me so during all these years?" "2 reasons," he said. "First, I couldn't be sure. The line between a heavy drinker and an alcoholic is not always clear. It wasn't until just lately that in your case, I could draw it. Second, you wouldn't have believed me even if I had told you." True fact. I had to admit to myself that he was right. Only, though, through being beaten down by my own misery would I ever have accepted the term alcoholic as applied to myself. Now, however, I accepted it fully. I knew from my general reading that alcoholism was irreversible and fatal. And I knew that somewhere along the line I lost the power to stop drinking. "Well, Doc," I said, "what are we going to do?" "There's nothing I can do," he said, "and nothing medicine can do. However, I've heard of an organization called Alcoholics Anonymous that has had some success with people like you. They make no guarantees and are not always successful. But if you want to your but if you want to you're free to try them. It might work." Many times in the intervening years, I have thanked God for that man. A man who had the courage to admit failure, a man who had the humility to confess that all the hard-won learning of his profession could not turn up the answer. I looked up an AA meeting and went there alone. Here I found an ingredient that had been lacking in any other effort I had made to save myself. Here was a power. Here, the power to live to the end of any given day, power to have the courage to face the next day, power to have friends, power to help people, power to be sane, power to stay sober. That was 7 years ago and many AA meetings ago, and I haven't had a drink during those 7 years. Moreover, I am deeply convinced that so long as I continue to strive in my bumbling way towards the principles I first encountered in the earlier chapters of this book, this remarkable power will continue to flow through me. What is this power? What, my AA friends, all I can say is that it's a power greater than myself. Impressed, or if pressed, all I can do is follow the psalmist who said it long before me, but still, and know that I am God. My story has a happy ending, but not of the conventional kind. I had a lot more hell to go through, but what a difference there is between going through hell without a power greater than oneself and with it. As might have been predicted, my teetering tower of worldly success collapsed. My alcoholic associates fired me, took control, and ran the enterprise into bankruptcy. My alcoholic wife took up with someone else, divorced me, and took with her all my remaining property. The most terrible blow of my life befell me after I found sobriety through AA. Perhaps the single flicker of decency that shone through the fog of my drinking days was a clumsy affection for my two children, a boy and a girl. One night, my son, when he was only 16, was suddenly and tragically killed. The higher power was on deck to see me through, sober. I think he is on hand to see my son through, too. There have been some wonderful things, too. My new wife and I don't own any property to speak of, and the flashy success of another day are no longer mine. But we have a baby who, if you'll pardon a little post alcoholic sentimentality mentality, is right out of heaven. My work is on a much deeper and more significant level than it ever was before, and I am today a fairly creative, relatively sane human being, and should I have more bad times, I know that I'll never again have to go through them alone. And that's the best thing about AA is when you decide that you want that higher power to help you through those days, you can do it without the alcohol and make it. Now, I always talk about the times that illness was around and everybody was freaking out. I have friends from AA who went back out because I'm not giving them excuses. There's when you're an alcoholic, you chance that every day that you breathe, a chance of going back out and falling off that wagon. So some of my friends did fall off, and not all of them will be able to make it back. But I pray for every single one of them because they have that power and they know about that power that's bigger than themselves, that they can ask for the help and guide them back to those rooms that they desperately need to be part of. Because after all, those rooms are the ones that help the most. And having a sponsor that you can trust and talk to whenever you need that person there to listen, they listen. And my sponsor, it doesn't matter day or night, I know I can call her and she'll answer her phone. Unless if she can't find it. Yes, Tony, you lose your stuff a lot, but I love you anyways. Chaos and all. Wouldn't be Tony without it. But I learned that the same thing that he did. You can live a life without the alcohol, and you can live through the good and the bad and the hard days and be okay to do it with no alcohol. And I've had death in my family. I've had friends who have died just recently. It hurts my heart, but I know that I don't have to go drink for that. And I know I'm okay without going and having that drink. And I could do that for the rest of my life and be happy. Just because you don't drink doesn't mean that you don't have those days when life throws all kinds of roadblocks at you and you just feel like you're struggling to get over it. But you can make it. Just like if you go back out, you can make it back. Some of us don't make it for a long time. You come to meetings and you go and drink, and you come back to a meeting and you go and drink. We don't discriminate against that. My prayer is that every alcoholic knows that there are these rooms everywhere. And there are millions and millions of us recovering alcoholics and recovering addicts and that have made it a long time without going back out. I'm over 11 years sober, and I live every day sober, good, bad, and ugly, and rotten attitude, and the whole works, And my service work that I do is right here doing the AA meetings. And also, I'm not shy to tell people that I'm a recovering alcoholic because that's who I am. That's going to be forever my life. I can't change that. But once you get into those rooms and you start using your steps and you have that sponsor that you trust and that will be there for you regardless of day and time and all of those things, you can do it. You can be a long time recovering alcoholic, and it just gets easier the longer you go. And it's sad when the new ones don't think that they can go very long, and then they go back out, and we may never see them again. And then you sit and wonder what happened to them. And I've had friends that went back out, and it hurts, but I can't tell them that they can't. I can't tell them, you have to do this or that, and because after all, it is your choice. It is up to you to decide who and why you want the program to work and how you're going to work it. For me, I work my program every single day that I breathe. It's every single day, more than once a day. Sometimes I got to pray for the people that are driving down the road. But I always like doing that. But then I catch myself swearing at them and, they can't hear me. So what's the point? But I do. And just because I'm recovering alcoholic for 11 years doesn't make me any better than the next one. Yeah, sure, I've been sober for 11 years, but that doesn't make my attitude any better than anybody else's. I still do have an attitude, and I still act like a brat. And I'm a mom, and I'm a grandma, and when it comes to those kids, you better believe I'm going to protect all of them. But yes, you heard me right. I'm a grandma of a wonderful girl and a wonderful boy. My grandson and my granddaughter. I love them. I get to see them for my birthday. I'm so excited. I haven't seen them for a while. I think the last time I got to see them was right after Christmas. So I miss them a lot. I give them hugs and kisses. Hi, Cheryl. But, so Shirley, we were reading the big book, and we're, let me go back and, it is Me, an Alcoholic. That's the one we read. Glad you're here. But for sure, AA is for, you can use AA for everything. I used it to quit smoking as, kind of extra crutch. I took the Chantix. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but it's been 2 years this month since I smoked a cigarette. Yes, I held a cigarette. It was not lit. I didn't smoke it. I gave it back to my sister. Yes. Like Tony said, we just know the steps to take to get us back to the right attitude. Exactly. And see, my thing is I like to argue, and I learned from a very good dad of mine to try to get the last word. So I have had to learn to just close my mouth and walk away, because when I'm arguing with my dad, we both have to have the last word, and that's just not gonna happen. So I leave, and leave it at that, and then I'll call later and apologize for my part in that argument. Yes, I have learned to turn around and walk away. Make sure you have your exit plan. Thank you, Bob. But, so, like I always say, AA is for everyone. And when you come here to AA, you have to want to be sober for the right reason. And the only right reason is for yourself. Yourself and yourself alone. Because if you cannot work on yourself, you can't help anybody else. And that's what I've told all my sponsees. I don't have any right now except for my sister. But that's what I've told all of them. When I first start with them, I'm like, listen, you got to want this for you. And if you don't want it for yourself, then you can't make it work. Which, I learned that really quick, because I can't change anybody else's attitude, but I can change mine. And choose not to argue about it. So, but anyways, I'm thinking about getting my hair cut. Right here. That much cut off. That's not that much. I don't know. Talk about bangs too. But anyways, thank you guys for being here for AA. I appreciate it. And listening to me talk about my story and trying to help others and doing my service work the best I can. It gets easier, I can tell you that. I work my steps every day, and I don't even realize I am. So I work it every day and on everything. not everything in life is going to go how you want it to. It doesn't work that way, but you can do it. I'm living proof. You can do it. I don't think I would be sitting here doing AA meetings on YouTube and Facebook live streaming and just sharing what I've learned in being sober and working a program that helps every day. And if you have ventured back out to the drinking world, please, 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 please come back to AA and be part of our groups and be part of those who work our steps and achieve sobriety and can help the next one. And sometimes that's what you need is the service work to help you stay sober. I know if I wasn't doing these meetings myself, I would probably go bananas because I don't go anywhere other than work. And so, yeah, I don't like going shopping either. But I do AA meetings for my service work. It helps me to stay sober too and remind myself that just because yesterday was okay doesn't mean that today's going to be just as good or just as bad. Because every day is different, but we only have today. We can only do 24 hours at a time, and that's all we're given. And sometimes that's the best way to do it. And because then you're always reminding yourself every day that you don't have to have that drink. You can be sober and be happy. Yeah. I love you too, Tony. And there's nothing you can do about that either. But anyways, guys, thank you for being here for my meetings. I appreciate it. And if you're new here, welcome. Subscribe and hit the bell notification. I go live twice a week. I go live on Mondays, or not Mondays, but I go live on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. And then I go live again on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So, yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a great week. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can. I forgot it. Change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. I love you guys. Have a great day. And there's always help. Love you guys. You're welcome, sis.